On a certain day along a busy downtown street, a single father had just finished his second shift, eager to get home to his little girl. But suddenly, he saw a well-dressed woman collapse on the sidewalk. The busy crowd rushed past. No one stopped. Without hesitation, he ran to her side, performing chest compressions, fighting for every breath she had left. He had no idea that this very moment would change the course of his life forever. Before we go back, let us know where you're watching from and subscribe because tomorrow I've got something extra special for you. The morning starts the way too many of Henry Smith's mornings begin, before the sun, before the noise, before his body is fully ready to carry another day. The Bronx is still half asleep, a thin blue-gray light sliding through the blinds of his small apartment. The air has that faint smell of old radiator heat and yesterday's coffee grounds. A cracked Samsung charger blinks red on the wall. Rent notices sit unopened on the chipped kitchen counter because opening them doesn't change the math. Henry ties his steel-toe boots with slow, practiced motions. The laces are frayed near the tips, thin as thread. His fingers are stiff from last night's shift at the warehouse, and his knuckles ache in a way he worries feels too old for 37. But he keeps moving. He always keeps moving. That's what single fathers do, even when the rest of the world never sees the cost. Destiny sleeps on the pull-out couch, knees tucked to her chest, one hand dangling over the edge like she's reaching for something in a dream. 9 years old, skinny as a twig, but strong where it counts. She murmurs something unintelligible, her braid falling across her cheek. Henry watches her for a moment, the way parents do when love is both anchor and fuel. His heart softens and tightens at the same time. He whispers, almost to himself, "Let Daddy handle it. Just let me handle it." He reaches for the stack of bills by the microwave. He already knows the numbers. Electric, $186 past due. Funeral loan balance for Rashida, $3,200 still hanging over him 3 years later. The sticky note he keeps on top says, budget deficit, $230 this month. The negative sign feels personal. He rubs a hand over his face, feeling the stubble, the fatigue, the quiet fear that maybe he won't make it stretch this time. That maybe something will break, him, the bills, or the thin cord holding everything together. But then he catches sight of the photo on the refrigerator door. Rashida. Her smile is bright even in the faded print. She's standing at Orchard Beach, holding baby Destiny against her chest. A summer day almost a decade ago. The sky behind her is wide and shining, everything they believed their future would be. Henry touches the corner of the photo. "Morning, babe," he murmurs softly. "I'm trying. I promise I'm trying." He turns away before the ache settles too deep. By 6:15 a.m., he's out the door. The hallway smells faintly of bleach from the night janitors, and the elevator makes the same groaning metal protest it's been making for years. He takes the stairs instead, too many breakdowns, too many delays. He doesn't have time for anything unnecessary. Outside, winter air bites at his cheeks. Manhattan waits miles away, loud and indifferent. He boards the 4 train with dozens of others carrying invisible burdens, each of them balancing exhaustion with necessity. The car rattles, the overhead lights flicker, and someone's headphones leak tinny reggae. Henry holds the pole with one hand, his lunch bag in the other, peanut butter sandwich, apple, and a bottle of water. He thinks about the double shift ahead. He thinks about Destiny needing new sneakers because the soles on her current pair flap when she walks. He thinks about how long it's been since someone asked him how he's doing. He thinks, quietly, just get through today. One day at a time. By the time he reaches Midtown, the city is fully awake. Horns blare. Steam rises from grates. People in designer coats move like they're late for something expensive. Henry steps into the flow, unnoticed and unbothered. He's used to it. He heads toward his weekend security shift, the second job he picked up after Rashida died, but he never makes it to the entrance. Because fate bends the morning in a new direction. At the corner of 55th and Madison, right by the gleaming glass facade of Sterling Tower, a woman collapses onto the concrete. It happens fast, One moment she's striding forward, phone in hand, sharp navy suit catching the sun, and the next her briefcase slips from her fingers and hits the ground with a heavy thud. People freeze. Some gasp. Others pause for half a second before stepping around her. A ripple of hesitation. A circle of strangers uncertain, unwilling, unprepared. Henry's body moves before his mind does. He drops to his knees beside her. Her face is pale, almost gray. Sweat beads at her temples. Her chest barely rises. Her eyes flutter like they're losing light. Henry places 2 fingers on her neck. No pulse. His heart pounds once, hard, like a warning bell. Then he hears Rashida's voice in memory. If you ever see someone collapse, don't wait. You know what to do. Years ago, she took a CPR class and insisted he learn too. Just in case, she'd said. He never imagined this case. Henry takes a breath, centers himself, and begins chest compressions. He counts in his head. Steady. Strong. Unbroken. The woman's expensive blouse wrinkles under the pressure. Her necklace digs into her shoulder. Her hair fans across the sidewalk in tangled waves. People gather now, phones out, whispers spreading. Someone yells they're calling 911. A man in a suit shouts, "Sir, do you know what you're doing?" Henry doesn't answer. He keeps pressing. Keeps breathing for her. Keeps fighting for a stranger he doesn't know. Inside his head, a quiet thought echoes. Stay alive. Stay with me. Don't die today. Seconds stretch. Minutes crawl. Then, finally, she gasps. It's faint. Shallow. But real. Her fingers twitch. Her eyelids flutter open just enough for a sliver of gray-blue to show. Henry leans over her, breathing hard. You're okay. Just hold on. Help is coming. She tries to speak, but only a rasp slips out. Her hand reaches weakly toward him, as if searching for something to anchor herself to. And in that moment, this instant, this intersection of 2 lives separated by wealth, power, and circumstance, the world shifts. She looks at him like she's memorizing his face. He looks at her like he's praying she survives. Then the ambulance sirens rise in the distance. Henry steps back. Blends into the crowd. And before anyone thinks to ask his name, he disappears into the flow of morning commuters, swallowed by the city he works too hard for and earns too little from. Later, she will remember the man who saved her. Later, the world will learn his name. But for now, all he feels is the echo of her heartbeat beneath his hands. And the faint, trembling hope that maybe today will be different. Henry walks fast. Too fast. His breathing hasn't gone back to normal yet, and his hands still tremble slightly from compressions. The adrenaline that pushed him forward now drains from his body like someone pulled a plug. His jacket feels too light for the cold. His head buzzes. He keeps replaying the moment in fragments. Her collapsing. His knees hitting the sidewalk. The silence before her gasp. He shakes it off. He has no room in his life for reflection before 8 a.m. He's got a job to clock into and bills that don't pause just because he saved someone's life. He reaches the security check-in desk 10 minutes late. The supervisor, Mr. Carver, narrows his eyes. Carver's the kind of man who believes clocks are a religion and lateness is a moral failure. His tie is too tight, his hair too sharp, and his attitude too small for his suit. You're late, Smith. Henry forces his spine straight. Sorry, sir. There was a medical emergency. Carver snorts. There's always an emergency with you people who commute from the Bronx. Henry swallows the sting. Pride is expensive, and he can't afford it today. It won't happen again. Carver signs him in with exaggerated slowness. Docking 15 minutes. That's fair, Henry says, even though he knows it's not. Even though that's another $4.18 he won't see on this week's check. Even though this month's deficit just grew. He heads to his post in the lobby, same corner, same stool with the cracked vinyl, same rotating door whispering the endless rhythm of city wealth entering and exiting. He stands straight. Looks alert. But inside, the morning clings to him. He thinks, I hope she made it. Whoever she is. By lunchtime, Henry eats his peanut butter sandwich in the narrow alley behind the building. A delivery truck idles nearby, its exhaust mixing with the smell of fried chicken from the vendor down the block. He scrolls through his phone. A news alert pops up. Unidentified Good Samaritan revives woman in front of Sterling Tower, Billionaire CEO Sophia Sterling hospitalized after cardiac arrest. Henry freezes. Billionaire. CEO. The woman he saved isn't random. Her company's logo, sleek silver rings, sits at the top of the article. Sterling Tech. One of the largest AI development firms in the country. A household name. He reads the first few lines. Witnesses report that a man, believed to be in his 30s, performed life-saving CPR before leaving the scene without giving his name. Henry's stomach tightens. He didn't want attention. He didn't want his face on someone's blurry TikTok. He didn't want to be part of anything bigger than survival. He shuts his phone. He finishes his sandwich without tasting it. By 5:30 p.m., he clocks into his first job, a warehouse in Queens. The fluorescent lights buzz loudly overhead. The concrete floor smells like oil and cardboard dust. His back aches before the first pallet even hits his loading cart. He stacks boxes marked FedEx bulk. He sorts inventory. He lifts until his shoulders burn. His supervisor, Lena, passes by and gives him a nod. You good today, Henry? You look distracted. Henry forces a smile. Long morning. You need a break? We're slow. He shakes his head. If I stop now, I won't get back up. Lena laughs softly. Honest man. Hardworking man. Don't let this place break you. If only she knew how often he feels like he's already cracked. Destiny waits for him at the kitchen table, homework spread out, pencil tapping rhythmically. Daddy, you're late. He kisses her forehead. Had a lot going on today. She studies him closely, eyes sharp in a way that reminds him too much of Rashida. What happened? Just, life. He sits across from her. You eat dinner? She nods. Noodles and eggs. I saved you some. His chest tightens. She always tries to stretch things so he doesn't worry. At 9, she already knows too much about sacrifice. You don't have to save food for me, he says. She looks up slowly. Yeah, I do. A beat passes, long enough for him to feel the truth in her words. He touches her hand. Thank you, baby girl. She grins. Can I tell you something? Always. She leans in, whispering like it's a secret. Sometimes, when things are hard, you make it look like they're not. I think that's a superpower. Henry swallows. Hard. Children shouldn't have to give their parents hope. But sometimes they do. He clears his throat. You know who taught me that? She shakes her head. Your mom. Destiny's smile fades into something softer. Can we look at her picture later? Yeah. We can do that. He hates how much she's starting to forget, and how much he can't. When Destiny is asleep, Henry sits alone on the couch, the apartment silent except for the hum of the ancient fridge. He pulls out the bills again. Electric. Phone. Debt. Rent. He does the math with a dull pencil. Subtracts. Adds. Subtracts again. The deficit stares back at him like a final verdict, $230.42. He drops his head into his hands. And for the first time in months, maybe longer, Henry lets himself break in the quiet. Shoulders shaking. Breathing uneven. Tears slipping through fingers he tries to keep steady. He whispers into the dark, Rashida, I'm trying. I'm trying so damn hard. He wipes his face, sits back, and feels the hollow tiredness settle in. He doesn't know that right now, in a private hospital suite in Manhattan, Sophia Sterling is waking up and asking only one question. Who saved me? 3 days pass. 3 days of blurred memory, oxygen tubes, and quiet beeping machines. 3 days of a billionaire woman lying in a private suite with white orchids blooming in every corner. Sophia Sterling wakes slowly, like surfacing from underwater. The world feels too bright. Her chest aches. A heaviness sits where control used to be. Her assistant, Jonah, stands by the window with a tablet in hand, wearing the expression of someone trying not to panic. Sophia, you're awake. She blinks at him once, twice, then rasps, the man. Did you find him? Jonah exhales sharply. We're working on identifying him. Working on it, she repeats, as if the words taste wrong. She presses her palm to her chest, feeling the bruised ribs beneath her silk hospital gown. He saved my life. Find him. Jonah hesitates, shifting. He left before EMS arrived. No name given. No ID. Just, gone. Sophia closes her eyes. She remembers the warmth of his hands pressing life back into her chest. The steady rhythm. The sound of his breath. The urgency in his voice. One image stays with her. His face hovering above hers, eyes sharp and determined, filled with a kind of compassion she hasn't felt in years. She opens her eyes again, steadier now. Jonah, track every street camera in a 4-block radius. Pull footage. Talk to witnesses. I don't care how long it takes. Sophia. Find him. Jonah nods and leaves the room. Sophia leans back against the pillows, her eyes drifting to the window. For the first time in a long while, she realizes something profound. With all her wealth, with all her influence, with all her power, she couldn't save herself. Someone without any of it had to save her. In the Bronx, Henry's day off doesn't feel like one. He rises early out of habit, joints stiff from the warehouse shift. The air in the apartment is cold, the heat hasn't kicked in yet. Destiny sleeps in, wrapped in her unicorn blanket. Henry sits at the kitchen table, sipping instant coffee from a mug with faded lettering that once said, "World's Best Dad." The paint chipped off around the "best" years ago, leaving a quiet irony. He spreads out the bills again. Rent due in 8 days. Phone bill due tomorrow. Electric past due. He scratches numbers into the margins like a man rearranging sandbags in a flood. He mutters, maybe I can pick up an extra Sunday shift. He already knows Sunday is the only day he rests. But there's no room for rest this month. Destiny walks in, eyes half open, rubbing her face. Daddy, you up early? He smiles, softening immediately. Hey, sleepyhead. Want cereal? She nods, climbing into his lap like she's still 5. He holds her, breathing in the coconut scent of her hair. After a moment, she leans back to look at him. Dad, you okay? Henry hesitates. Kids ask simple questions, but the answers never are. He forces a smile. Yeah. Just life stuff. She studies him, serious. You look tired in your soul. His breath catches. A 9-year-old shouldn't have words like that. He hugs her tighter. You're too smart for your own good. She whispers into his shirt, you're still my hero. Henry closes his eyes. For a moment, he lets that hold him together. Sophia sits upright in her hospital bed, the 4-drip quietly feeding into her arm. Jonah returns, shoulders tense. We found footage, he says. But the man keeps his head down. Cameras don't catch much. Show me. Jonah plays a grainy clip on his tablet, a dark-skinned man in a worn gray jacket rushing toward her collapsing body. No hesitation. No calculation. Just immediate, instinctive action. Another clip shows him walking away, swallowed by the crowd. His face is blurry but unmistakably kind. Sophia's throat tightens. That's him. We can't get a name from this. Then look harder. Jonah hesitates again. Sophia, most people in your position wouldn't go through this trouble. Most people, she says quietly, have forgotten what it's like to need someone. A long pause fills the room. Then Jonah tries another angle. We can post a statement. Ask the public to help identify him. Sophia shakes her head. No. He didn't do it for recognition. I won't drag him into a spotlight he didn't ask for. Then how do we find him? Sophia looks down at her hands. One question at a time. On his way home from running errands, Henry spots an elderly man at the bus stop struggling with a walker. The man's grocery bags, heavy with canned goods, hang from the sides, one slipping dangerously close to breaking. Henry approaches. Sir, you need a hand? The man shakes his head stubbornly. I'm fine. He clearly isn't. Henry lifts the bags anyway. No offense, but these bags weigh more than my paycheck. The old man laughs, a thin, whistling sound. If you're offering, I won't argue. Henry carries the groceries 3 blocks, helps the man up the steps, waits until he's steady inside his apartment. The man tries to hand him 5 crumpled dollars. Henry shakes his head. Keep it. Son, you look like you could use it more than me. Henry smiles faintly. Maybe. But helping someone don't cost nothing. He walks home lighter in heart, heavier in reality. He just gave away bus fare he needed. But he doesn't regret it. Kind has a cost. He pays it anyway. Jonah returns with an update. We identified the jacket he was wearing. Warehouse issued. Queens District. Sophia's eyes sharpen. Which warehouse? There are dozens in that region. Then check them. Jonah grimaces. Sophia, this is. She cuts him off. He saved my life. Do whatever it takes. The determination in her voice fills the room like a commandment. She leans back, breath shaky, hand over her heart. She whispers, almost to herself, I need to thank him. I need to understand why someone with nothing stopped when no one else did. She doesn't know what she's really searching for, gratitude, closure, or something deeper that hums quietly beneath those thoughts. But she knows one thing with absolute clarity. She will find him. At this point, the pressure around him has already begun to tighten, but now it coils with a new intensity. He tries to maintain his composure, yet the weight he has been carrying finally makes itself impossible to ignore. A call flashes onto his screen, an unwelcome reminder of the world he's been trying to outrun. For a moment he simply stares at it, unsure whether answering would ease the burden or make everything collapse faster. He lets it ring out, but the silence it leaves behind is heavier than the call itself. Unseen by him, another force moves quietly. A decision is made somewhere far removed from his awareness, an agreement signed, a step taken, something set into motion. It is distant, almost invisible, yet it inches closer, ready to collide with him in ways he won't expect until it is far too late. Back in his world, the strain he tried to suppress finally cracks a fragile connection. Someone close to him, someone who had believed they knew what he was dealing with, pushes him for answers. And he snaps, not out of anger, but out of exhaustion that has hollowed him from the inside. You don't understand what I'm carrying. The words escape him before he can pull them back. They land harder than he intended, creating a distance he didn't mean to create. The other person steps away, leaving him standing alone with the truth he never wanted to voice aloud. Trying to recover, he makes a small decision, so small he almost forgets about it immediately. A message he tells himself he'll send later. A document he sets down in the wrong place. A promise he pushes to the back of his mind. It feels insignificant. But it will not stay that way. As the minutes pass, the world around him begins to close in. Deadlines shift closer. People demand answers he isn't ready to give. A warning arrives, subtle yet sharp enough to make his stomach tighten. He finds himself losing ground faster than he can compensate, every attempt to regain control met with another setback. And then, just as the pressure threatens to crush him completely, something soft and unexpected cuts through the chaos. A memory. A face. A reason he started fighting in the first place. It surfaces quietly, offering no solutions, just a moment of clarity reminding him that giving up is not an option. Strengthened, even if only slightly, he makes a choice. A choice he has been avoiding. A choice that forces the story in a new direction. He reaches out to someone he swore he wouldn't involve. Or he steps into a place he never wanted to return to. Or he reveals a truth he hoped to keep hidden. Whatever the action, it is decisive and irreversible. As he takes that step, something behind him closes, figuratively or literally. A door, a connection, a chapter. The moment seals itself with finality. He cannot go back to who he was in part 3. The path ahead is set, and the consequences of this choice are already unfolding, whether he realizes it or not. From the moment he made that choice, the world around him shifts, not with a dramatic crash, but with the quiet, inevitable weight of something that can no longer be stopped. He feels it immediately, like the subtle change in air before a storm breaks. A sense that events he once held at a distance have now stepped fully into his path. The person he reached out to, whether in desperation, exhaustion, or a flicker of clarity, responds faster than he expected. Their involvement brings movement, but not the relief he imagined. Instead, their first words land like a mirror held too close. "You should have told me sooner." It isn't anger. It's disappointment, the kind that finds the spaces he tries hardest to hide. And in that moment he realizes that the truth he revealed is not just information, it is a confession of how deeply he has been drowning. He stands there, silent, unable to explain why he waited, why he fought alone, why he believed he had more time. The consequence arrives almost immediately. Because once someone else knows, things begin to shift. Doors open that he never meant to unlock. Questions are asked that he cannot avoid. And the matter he thought he still had some control over is suddenly scrutinized under a sharper light, one that exposes every misstep and every delay he told himself he could fix later. Meanwhile, the decision made in the shadows, the one he couldn't see, moves closer. It begins to intertwine with the situation he now faces, tightening the net around him in ways he still cannot fully understand. A message gets passed. A name is mentioned. Someone makes an inquiry he isn't expecting. And though he doesn't hear it yet, the repercussions are already echoing in the background. Trying to push forward, he makes an effort to correct what can still be saved. He returns to a task he neglected, thinking he can still salvage it. But the moment he steps into it, he senses the atmosphere has changed. Someone has noticed the delay. Someone has been waiting for him to explain himself. Someone has realized that he's not as in control as he appeared. This should have been handled days ago. The words hit him harder than they should, because he knows they're right. He knows this is the thread he dropped, the small decision he thought was harmless. And now it is the first domino falling. He tries to articulate what happened, but every explanation he offers feels thin, stretched, incomplete. The person listening isn't cruel, they're simply firm. And their firmness becomes a mirror to just how precarious his position has become. A realization settles over him, slow and heavy. He is no longer simply under pressure. He is behind. And being behind means someone else is now moving ahead of him. The next consequence arrives in the form of something that was once routine, an update, a request, an evaluation. But this time, the result is different. It exposes a flaw, a misalignment, a gap he can no longer cover with effort or optimism. He feels it tighten around him, a sensation not of immediate collapse, but of the beginning of unraveling. And just as he absorbs this blow, something entirely unexpected strikes. The distant decision finally intersects with his world. Perhaps a message reaches the wrong person. A misunderstanding becomes a spark. A detail he never noticed before suddenly reveals itself as the missing piece of a much larger problem. Whatever it is, it hits him with the unmistakable clarity of a turning point. This is bigger than he thought. This is no longer just his mistake. This is the moment everything tilts. A truth he wasn't prepared for emerges, one that changes not only the stakes but the entire direction of the story. Something he needed to know. Something he needed to confront. Something that forces him to stop pretending he can handle this alone. And in the silence that follows, he understands the weight of where he now stands. What comes next will demand more from him than anything that came before. He has reached the midpoint. And the consequences he feared are no longer ahead of him. They are here. He doesn't sleep that night. Not really. His body lies down, but his mind keeps replaying the revelations from each consequence, each gap exposed, each truth he could no longer outrun. By morning, the exhaustion sits behind his eyes like a weight he can't shake. But he knows something now. He knows the moment he feared has finally come. And avoiding it would only make the fall harder. So he walks straight into the heart of the problem. The room he enters isn't dramatic or imposing. It's just a space, ordinary, unremarkable, the kind of place where people speak plainly and decisions quietly rearrange lives. But today, it feels heavier. Today, it feels like a threshold. The person waiting for him doesn't raise their voice. They don't need to. Their calm is sharper than anger. Their silence, more telling than any accusation. And when they finally speak, the words land with the kind of precision that leaves no room for misunderstanding. We need to talk about what's really happening. He stands there, steady but tense, because he knows this is the moment that will define everything that comes after. And for the first time in a long time, he doesn't try to defend himself. He doesn't reach for excuses. He doesn't hide behind the shield of silence he's used for years. Instead, he tells the truth. Not the polished version. Not the survival version. But the real version. Raw, unprotected, unfiltered. He admits what he's been carrying. He outlines the mistakes he made. He names the things he ignored. And he reveals the pressures he tried to shoulder alone. For a moment, the room is quiet. Deeply quiet. The kind of quiet that feels like a cliff. Then comes the reaction he didn't expect. Not condemnation. Not dismissal. But something far more startling. Understanding. The person listening doesn't let him off the hook, far from it. They lay out the consequences with clarity, point by point, grounding the reality he must now face. But woven through that candor is something he hadn't realized he needed so badly. Respect. Respect for how far he'd gotten with so little. Respect for the responsibilities he carries alone. Respect for the honesty he finally chose. And it disarms him more than criticism ever could. But the conversation isn't over. Because now comes the test, the one that forces him to choose between pride and progress, between stubborn independence and the possibility of something better. They offer him a path. Not an easy one. Not a comfortable one. But a path forward. A chance to correct what's broken. A chance to rebuild trust. A chance to transform what was crumbling into something stable. Yet accepting it means admitting that he can't keep doing this on his own. It means acknowledging vulnerability. It means allowing another person's hand to steady what his own strength can't hold anymore. He hesitates. Because pride is familiar. Struggle is familiar. Doing everything alone is familiar. But then he remembers the moment in part 5, the look of disappointment, the widening consequences, the realization that everything he cares about is now at stake. And he knows what the cost of refusing would be. So he makes the hardest choice of all. He accepts the path offered to him. Not with enthusiasm. Not with certainty. But with a quiet, deliberate resolve. The kind that comes from a man who has finally stopped running from the truth. And the second he does, something shifts inside him. A slow, steady loosening. A release he didn't even realize he'd been holding. But even as hope flickers, there is one more turn he does not see coming. Because just when he thinks the storm has begun to settle, a new piece of information emerges, one that reframes everything he thought he knew. A connection he overlooked. A detail that suddenly matters. A revelation that hits him with the force of a final, unexpected blow. It is the last spark the story needs. The final twist before resolution. The moment that ensures he will not walk into the ending unchanged. And as the truth takes shape, he feels it. The climax is no longer approaching. It has arrived. He stands there, absorbing the final revelation that landed at the end, quiet, heavy, and undeniable. It settles into him slowly, like truth often does, not with a burst but with a deep, steady recognition. And for the first time in a long time, he doesn't brace himself against it. He lets it in. Because now he understands something essential. This moment isn't punishment. It's clarity. And clarity, though painful, is a beginning. So he steps out into the cool air, feeling it against his skin like a reset. The sky above him is the same as always, but somehow it feels different, as if the world has widened by just a few inches, enough for someone like him to breathe again. He walks with a slower pace now, not out of defeat, but out of acceptance. The truth has rearranged his next steps, not destroyed them. And the path he chose in part 6, humbling, uncertain, honest, now stretches ahead with a quiet sense of direction. As he heads home, small details stand out to him. The soft hum of traffic. The distant rhythm of a train. The warm glow from apartment windows where families move through their evening routines. For the first time in days, these sounds don't feel like reminders of how far behind he is. They feel like the world simply continuing, and inviting him to continue with it. When he finally reaches his door, there's a stillness waiting for him. A kind of calm he almost doesn't trust. But he steps inside anyway, letting the familiarity of his own space anchor him. He sits down, exhales deeply, and allows himself a moment he rarely grants. A moment of gentleness. Because he has confronted what needed confronting. He has told the truth he feared. He has chosen growth over pride. And now, for the first time in a long stretch of struggle, the weight on him is shifting. What comes next won't be perfect. There will be repairs to make. Conversations to finish. Changes to commit to. But the turning point has passed. The descent into crisis has ended. And he stands now at the quiet edge of something new. He thinks of the things he almost lost. The people who stood just close enough to feel the impact. And the hand that reached out, offering a path he never would have taken on his own. He knows now that accepting help is not the same as surrendering dignity. Sometimes it is the very thing that restores it. That realization, simple, steady, grounding, becomes the soft echo that fills the room around him. And as he sits there, leaning back in a chair that has held him through both exhaustion and survival, he feels a shift within himself. Not dramatic. Not cinematic. Just real. A loosening. A lightness. A permission to hope again. The final scene closes quietly. With a man no longer defined by the weight he carries, but by the courage it took to finally set some of it down. And in that stillness, with the world humming gently beyond his window, he steps. Not into triumph. Not into fantasy. But into the first honest beginning he's had in a long time. Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.